Hello and welcome to today's video. Today I am reviewing a pen from Maiora, handmade in Italy. Now Maiora is a brand that I've been really interested in for quite a while, and actually just before COVID struck the world, I was chatting with Nino Marino there, who runs Maiora, about reviewing one of his pens, and then of course COVID sort of got in the way and a lot of things sort of went on the back burner, but now we've restarted our conversation, and now I have this beautiful pen here to review. I did purchase this pen at a slightly reduced cost from Maiora, but this was a pen I did purchase. So what I have here is the Maiora Impronte in the Oversize. The Impronte is their flagship model, and it comes in a regular size and an oversize. Very small difference in terms of size, really, in comparison between the two. Millimeters, really. Comes with little instruction book and all those kinds of bits and pieces that you would expect, warranty information. And then this really interesting case. Now, a bit of background on Maiora, just a tiny bit. Maiora is one of those brands that came out of the demise, if you will, of Delta. Delta was an Italian brand, and the two owners of Delta, one went into making Leonardo pens and one went into Maiora, and Nino is also one of the people behind Nettuno 1911 pens. So there are certain elements of this pen that do reflect the Delta history. Now, I never owned a Delta, but you follow, social media, you see them, you see the reviews, and you see things that are definitely similarities, and they are similarities that I find across a range of Italian pens in particular. So let's look at this pen. So the top comes off using these little elastics on the side, and reveals the pen sitting in a foam bed. And this is the Impronte. Now, this is a cartridge converter pen. Can use international standard cartridges and converters. It does have a threaded converter. Now, I won't take that up because, I might when I get to that point. Let's start at the beginning. This is a numbered edition, not a limited edition, but a numbered edition. So each pen has its own number engraved on the side of the pen, mine being 3256. That will go up and up and up. Comes with a number 6 Jovo steel nib. I got it with a medium. And you could get it from extra fine, medium, broad, and some stub varieties. As I said, it is handmade in Italy. It's made of resin and has a rhodium coated trim on it. You can also get it with like a gold colored trim as well as a number of other finishes. So let's talk about the pen from the top, and then we'll do writing samples and pros and cons and all that. Okay, so starting at the top of the pen, you have a peaked finial there, very reminiscent of Delta, and of course something that you see in Leonardo pens as well. The pen then the cap swells out to the center band, and it goes from this matte resin to a sort of a shiny resin there on the end of the cap, and then step down off the cap onto the barrel. Nice symmetry there of these silver rings. The pen then tapers down to another silver ring, and then a peaked end cap there. Now the end cap is the blind cap, and that screws off to reveal the end of the captive converter. So captive converter basically means there's a standard converter, well, not a standard converter, but a converter in this pen, and the blind cap means that you don't have to take the body of the pen off to be able to activate the converter. The pen unscrews in one turn and reveals that same glossy resin material on the section. There is a step down off the barrel, another silver thread, ring, smooth threads, very fine, and then a very hourglass shaped section. As I said, then a number 6 Jovo nib engraved with Maiora and the logo. But apart from that, it is a standard nib and has a plastic feed. So, as I said, this pen has that captive converter mode, but you can unscrew the body of the pen to reveal the whole converter. Now it is a branded converter, Maiora there, made in Italy, and it is a nice looking converter. Fairly sort of similar to most converters in how it operates, but it sits in there and it is threaded in to the section for security that allows you to use that captive converter motion, but unthreading it means you can put a standard converter in there or cartridges if that is what you decide to use. The clip of the pen I find really nice. It has a really interesting line to it because these angles sort of work in a nice M shape. And I would imagine this would be intentional because it's too perfect to not be, but it creates a nice M shape there with the outline of the cap and then these corresponding angles of the clip. I've got the M for Maiora there. It's also got a lovely sort of brushed or matte sort of lining in it, and then the sort of the more polished front. It's a fairly flexible clip, not super springy, but functional, and it is cut into the cap there. Size comparison now with the Lamy Safari. You can see it is longer than Safari there, and this is an oversized pen technically, I suppose, in that respect. It is the oversized version of this model. Uncapped, we see the pen still has a really great length. The length of the front of the section to the end of the nib, of course, being a number 6 size nib, is greater than the Lamy Safari, and the Lamy Safari section is longer, but the width there, the length at the end is just a little bit more pronounced on the Maiora. And lastly, we see the posted length, and this is where the roles are reversed. The Maiora does post quite deeply because of that sort of very tapered body. So it actually ends up being a little bit shorter than a Lamy Safari when it is posted. So what are the specs for the Maiora Impronte Oversize? Well, it's 149 millimeters when it is capped, so good size pen. It's 137 when it is uncapped, so definitely a good length in the hand. The balance of the pen is nice. It's not a super heavy pen, so that sits well. The section not being super long does mean you can find your fingers moving further back on the pen there and onto the barrel, and that is not a sharp step down. You can feel it and you can feel the threads, but none of it is sharp. None of it is particularly uncomfortable on the fingers. And then posted, it is 159. It's a slightly long pen, and it does add a tiny bit of weight to the back there, but it is still fairly comfortable to use when it is posted. The grip section, strong hourglass on this, from just under 11 to around 13 millimeters. So it's got a good taper and then sort of expanse there. The weight of the pen is 33 grams, and 24 of that is in the body, 9 of that is in the cap. So the balance isn't put off too much being posted, but it is a very nice, comfortable weight to write when it is unposted. Time for a writing sample now with the Maiora Impronte. It's been uncapped for a while. That is not representative of how this pen writes. It is a very reliable, good writer. So this is the Oversize. Can't write. Okay, so this comes with a medium, well, I have it with a medium, steel number 6 nib. And the ink today is one of my new absolute favorite inks. It is a Diamine ink made in collaboration with Cult Pens. And the name, beautifully, is Michael, named after one of their staff members. A lovely, rich, dark blue ink, which I really quite enjoy. So, let's see this pen in action. It's smooth. Maybe a hint of feedback, particularly on the side strokes, but it's reliable. Perhaps a few little issues with fast writing, but which is interesting because the flow on this pen is pretty wet. Like, it's not a gusher by any stretch, but it is certainly a wet nib, particularly for a Jowo steel. I would not be surprised if they have done some work on these nibs themselves. Reverse writing, absolutely fine. It would dry out after a while, but you could easily get what does start to dry out, easily get a few words out. It is a stiff nib. Don't push these nibs. Jowo steel nibs are not designed for this. You see, like, it doesn't handle it. It's not good. But in general, the writing experience with this pen is really lovely. Like, with no pressure whatsoever, like under its own weight, it's writing flawlessly. You can see it lays down a nice wet line. Like, this ink it does sheen, and you do get some of that sheen coming through on rhodia here from this pen as the ink dries. It writes well, it writes smooth, it writes wet. Maybe not the best for fast writing, but for everyday writing, for everyday use, for this kind of thing, lovely. So now let's talk some pros and cons for the Maiora Impronte. Okay, start with cons. A couple of things that bug me about this pen. Firstly, the section with that very strong taper at that point, it kind of, and with a decent girth on the body of the pen, you kind of feel like you're pinching a little bit, even though it gets down to, at its thinnest, it's still a fairly good size section. It feels a bit pinchy, like you're holding it far down. Doesn't feel to be the same relaxed grip that you can have with some pens. And to achieve that, you can put your thumb on the threads and step down and hold it a bit higher up, and that's absolutely fine. But you are then putting your fingers on the threads. Another issue I have with this pen, and this is, not necessarily personal, but something that shouldn't happen. There's like that. That's not the. It's a different noise, and what that is the metal of that captive converter striking against the metal here. And so what that means is we get a rattle, and it's not, you don't get it when you're writing, but picking the pen up, putting it down, moving it around, you do just get that rattle happening. The other thing I have, and this is very, very personal, is that I don't see the point in a captive converter. Now, I understand that, you might want to be able to fill from a bottle, you put the pen in further in, and you just activate using that bit, whatever the case may be. I can see that. I will always, regardless if it's a blind, open it up, because I want to see how much ink I'm getting in a pen. I want to see that I'm getting a solid fill, that it's, doing everything it should do. So I will always operate the pen that way. I don't operate it using the captive converter. To me, I think it's a level of fake luxury that a lot of pen brands use, and a lot of them use, particularly Italian brands, instead of having a piston converter built into the body of the pen. So that's just a personal thing that I don't love. I like to see how much ink I am filling my pen with. Now let's talk about the price. This pen is MSRP for $245 US, but can really often be bought for under $200 US. So you're getting a handmade Italian pen, from a relative, not a huge manufacturer. Like they're a player for certainly, not like Aurora or something like that. But they may be one day. But it is a steel nib pen with a converter. A captive converter that acts like a piston, sure, but still a converter. So around the 200 mark is still fairly high for this pen. But you are getting a pen that, as I said, writes well, that is handmade in Italy, numbered, all those kinds of things, and all these things do add to the level of the cost that you can expect when buying a pen like this. And then let's talk about the pros. Firstly, the size of this oversized pen is great. It's a nice full size in your hand. It's beautiful. The nib, wet and smooth. Lovely. The finishing on the majority of this pen, where the way the rings sit and the threads are all beautifully done. lovely. You know, things like that. The only issue is that little rattle. The other thing I love about this pen is that Italian elegance. And by that I mean, as I said, it is, you see trademarks of the golden age, things like, you know, elements of Omas and Delta and things like that in this pen. It's not that it's copying brands like Delta. They just have the same heritage. This was the Maiora Impronte Oversize in the matte black with the rhodium trim. A pen I really enjoy. I love the lines. I love the material. I think it's beautiful. It writes really well. It's a joy to use. I hope you found this video interesting and useful. If you did, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Hit the notifications button if you want to stay up to date with the videos that I produce. Please feel free to get in touch using any of the platforms listed below. You can find me on Instagram or Twitter at @the_offstage_me, or you can contact me on any of my videos here or drop me an email, which is listed down below. If you've got products you think I should be looking at, or if there's a way you'd like to support the channel by sponsoring a review or providing an item for review, I would love to hear from you. Once again, a big thank you to Nino at Maiora for, you know, sort of giving me a good price on this pen so that I could do this review for you. It's support from companies like Maiora, as well as you, my viewers, that make these videos possible. In the meantime, enjoy your pens, enjoy writing, and I'll talk to you soon.